Good morning, everybody. I'm Gabe DeSanto, the president of the Ontario High School Conservative Association, and I'm glad that you're able to join us today. We're glad that you're able to join us for this great interview. It is my honor and great pleasure to have the former leader of the Conservative Party of Canada and the MP for Regina, Qu'Appelle, joining us today, the Honourable Andrew Scheer. Andrew was elected to be the MP for Regina, Qu'Appelle at the age of 25, having beat out the longest-serving MP at that time in 2004. In 2011, he was chosen to be the 35th Speaker of the House of Commons, being the youngest person in Canadian history to be put into that position. He became the leader of the CPC in 2017, and in the 2019 election, he won the popular vote. He reduced Justin Trudeau to a minority and gained more seats for our party. Under the leadership of our new leader, Erin O'Toole, he serves as the Shadow Minister of Infrastructure and Communities, holding Catherine McKenna's feet to the fire. Welcome, Andrew, to the show.
Thanks very much. It's my pleasure to be here, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to like-minded young people from across Ontario. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And it is, we are glad to have you here today, and we want to start question and answer session. We always start with one, and all these questions are asked by our high school members across Ontario and across Canada. We have a lot of members, and we ask their questions for them. They bring them forward. So question one is, if there is an election called and when there's an election called, how do you believe our party can win, and how can we do it? And this comes from Javier in Ottawa.
Well, we don't know when the election's going to be. It could be in a matter of weeks. It could be later on this year. But the key is to ensure that our message gets out, that Canadians think about the issues that we are strongest on, and that we motivate our vote to get out. It is always a challenge for Conservative parties in Canada. We don't have all the tools that the left has. The Liberals, the NDP, they have so many third-party groups running ads for them. They have all kinds of organizations that line up to advocate for their policies and their ideology. In the Conservative Party, it's our members, it's our activists, it's our grassroots. We don't have the CBC and the state-run media. We don't have the mainstream media promoting or in many cases even just giving our side a fair shake. So we have to work a little bit harder and get up a little bit earlier in the morning and be better. So I have every confidence in Erin O'Toole. He's putting together a very strong team, build on the success we had in the last election. Going from 99 seats to 121, winning the popular vote, defeating so many Liberal cabinet ministers, knocking first-term majority prime minister down to minority. A lot of gains were made, and Erin's going to finish that job, punch it over the goal line, and we're all very excited to be a part of that. Fortunately for us, we have a very strong message on the recovery. Erin unveiled the recovery plan that we're going to secure the future for Canadians by focusing on recovering those lost jobs during the pandemic, addressing mental health, shining a light on the Liberal corruption, and making sure that Canada is self-sufficient again. With a lot of the decisions of the past government, we've been making Canada less competitive. Jobs are going overseas, particularly to China. We have to rely on China to get a lot of vital equipment and pieces of personal protective equipment and things like that. And of course, growing the economy. So very confident that we're going to put together a very strong team. It's always in the hands of the voters. But there's a very exciting path ahead for our party.
When we think of it, the Liberals and the NDP, they have their supporters, and the Conservative Party has our supporters too. And people look at the last election and they say, oh, Andrew Scheer lost. What a great thing. We got Trudeau again. But then I say to them, listen, Andrew Scheer reduced them to a minority. He got the popular vote. He got us more seats. He did a great job, and I think Erin O'Toole is going to keep going. And our country's a very different place than it was in 2019. Justin Trudeau's been another scandal, the WE scandal. He's messed up COVID. The vaccines, we're getting them at a trickle rate. They're not going well so far. We are behind. We're keep dropping in the list, and I'm confident as well that the work that you started in 2019 and can bring us to form government soon. And the next question is from Brandon, and he's asking, what do you think the deciding factor in the 2019 election that made the CPC lose the election? What do you think that was, the deciding factor?
Well, it's really hard to pick just one thing. There's a lot of moving pieces in a campaign, and let me start off by saying, there's nobody more disappointed than me that we weren't able to win the most seats, but there is nobody that appreciate all the hard work by so many people, our caucus, our candidates, our campaign team, and we learned a lot of lessons. We're running into some particular challenges in Ontario that we didn't face in other provinces. We were up against the first majority government. In Canadian history, I think there's been one other time when a first majority government has been outright defeated. It happens, they get knocked down to minorities often, but to go from first to losing government altogether is a very rare thing in our parliament. And this, relatively speaking, while people's personal financial situation were vulnerable, there's a lot of people feeling like they weren't getting ahead, and that the cost of living was just getting more and more expensive because of the American economy kind of propping up the Canadian economy, despite Justin Trudeau's best efforts to destroy jobs and chase away investment. Usually when the American economy does well, the Canadian economy does well. We could have been doing much better if we had a conservative free market principles being applied. So there's definitely a number of factors, and I look back at the campaign, I think, I wish we could do that over again, or I didn't handle that question as well as I could have, or I thought of a better response later. So there's always, I'll certainly take ownership for things I could have done better. But it's so hard to pinpoint just one thing. I think the most important thing for our party is to recognize the successes and not let the media tell us what went wrong. The media loves to paint a picture about conservatives that is never ever accurate. It's not really based in a reality of what people said. There were reasons why we didn't win, for sure. Let's make sure we learn the right reasons, the real lessons. Look at what did work and build on that and fix the things that didn't work or need to be improved. And I've been incredibly fortunate to work as a shadow minister with Erin O'Toole's team. There's a lot of reasons for that optimism. And like I said, we're in an incredibly strong position based on the last election. COVID, of course, has changed a lot of the dynamic, and not yet clear exactly how that's all going to shake out. But I think, as you mentioned, there's so many more reasons not to vote for Justin Trudeau. The WE scandal, unbelievable sole sourcing a contract of hundreds of millions of dollars to a company that had done so many favors for the Trudeau family and for Liberal cabinet ministers. In addition, his bungling of the vaccines. We're under our third wave here. This is the Trudeau lockdown. Because he botched the vaccines in January and February, we're so far behind. I was watching the Jays game the other day. The Yankee Stadium was 25% capacity. The Texas Rangers Stadium was 100% capacity. The Jays are playing their home games in Florida because they're not allowed to have crowds at Skydome. That is because Justin Trudeau has bungled the vaccines so much. I'm very confident that when we emerge from the pandemic, when people go to think about who they want to lead the recovery, it's not going to be the guy who so bungled it over the last few years. It's going to be Erin O'Toole, someone who's got a track record of excellence getting the job done.
Well, I mean, as all our EDAs are starting to choose our members that are going to run in the next election, we have a really strong team. We brought on a strong team last time, and we're going to have an even stronger team. We have lots of great MPs. We have lots of great candidates, and I think that's what will help us win the next election. And we have a lot of great people that are going to help us win, and that will bring the Conservatives back into power and to make Canada a better place again, as opposed to the past 5, almost 6 years of Justin Trudeau. And I mean, I saw Pierre Poilievre posted a video recently about how an American down in California, the news station was talking about the WE scandal too, because it's it's touching some people in California as well and in the US, and it really is a massive failure on the government's on the Trudeau government, and the vaccines were so far behind. And I think that Trudeau needs to be like, people need to vote him out. We need to get him out. He's shown time and time again that he is not competent. He will not lead Canada as he should be, as a good prime minister would. And I think Erin is that type of person that will lead us properly.
Absolutely. Obviously there's the personal characteristics between someone like Erin O'Toole, who, had to work for everything he's ever been. He's had to work for everything he's got in life, and serving his country in the armed forces, working in the private sector. And then, you've got Justin Trudeau on the other hand. Well, he was, while Justin Trudeau was putting on blackface at the school that he was teaching at, Erin O'Toole was serving our country. So you've got that on the individual comparison level. It's hands down, Erin wins every time. But then you've also got the major problem with Justin Trudeau. It's not just that he's incompetent. It's not just that he's a laughing stock around the world, and that he's bungled this pandemic so bad that it's affecting people's lives and livelihood. It's also his ideas. He is promoting the same tired, big government socialism that has failed everywhere it's been tried. Every country that tries to implement these types of systems of penalizing entrepreneurs, of massive expansion of the state into the economy, it always leads to horrible outcomes. Anytime you look at a country that has prospered, it's because of free market economics. There are countries around the world with natural resources that are economic basket cases because they implement big government socialism, like Venezuela. I was on a call the other day with my Saskatchewan colleagues, and for those of you that might not know a whole lot about Western Canada, there's a city called Lloydminster, and half of it is in the province of Alberta, and half of it is in the province of Saskatchewan. And when Alberta was governed by conservative governments with free market principles and low taxes and streamlined regulations, the Alberta side of Lloydminster grew very rapidly. There were private liquor stores. That's where people opened up businesses, and it didn't happen so much on the Saskatchewan side. When Rachel Notley became Premier of Alberta and Brad Wall was Premier of Saskatchewan, we had free market principles implemented in Saskatchewan. The reverse happened. The growth went down, on the Alberta side, and went up on the Saskatchewan side. So everywhere around the world where we have these real-time, real-life experiments of big government socialism, it always leads to misery. And so that's something one of my passions, kind of stepping away from the leadership position, is to help promote that. Yes, it's important that we talk about day-to-day issues and election issues, and ballot questions, and kind of what Canadians are faced with today. But we also need, especially, this is where you come in, this is where your members come in. I would venture to guess that there are so many people at the schools you go to, so many young kids who have never heard of Milton Friedman, who never get taught about Adam Smith or the philosophy of liberty or Henry Hazlitt. You're going to get a lot of the curriculum is going to steer you a certain way. And I think what we need to do is help young people who have heard of these great intellectual thinkers, and we need to tell that story. We need to start telling the story to young people. What happened in East Berlin and West Berlin? Why was there a Soviet Union? Why were so many people trying to risk their lives to get out of East Berlin into West Berlin? Why did some people defect from the Soviet Union versus how many defected from Western countries to the Soviet Union? And just teach this next generation about the hard lessons of the very recent past. If we don't help young kids understand what's at stake with economic liberty and individual freedom, we're doomed to repeat some of those same mistakes. So that's why I'm so grateful for the opportunity, because I'd love to help just spread that message of free market economics, individual liberty being the way to lift people out of poverty and improve people's quality of life.
Well, as young people, we really need to look at a two-sided approach. I feel that as young people, we're fed this one-sided left is good, right is bad, conservatives are bad, liberals are great, and this big thing that everybody starts to, from a young age, if you don't look at it for yourself, which unfortunately a lot of people don't look at their world in a two-sided approach. They usually go to one side really quickly because they see an Instagram post or something like that. They start to believe in the wrong thing because they don't have all the information needed. And that's where our schools come in. We see a lot of one-sided arguments in our schools. We see a lot of students in our schools who believe that Justin Trudeau is the best because he has nice hair. I was telling my friend last week that during the election in 2019, there was a group of girls in my class who absolutely despised you because Trudeau was good looking. I asked them, why do you think Trudeau's the best choice? Like, he has cute hair and nice socks. Like, they actually said that. I'm like, you do you, but look at both sides. And that's why I think as young people, we need to get involved. We try to push that in our group and through our schools, and we're not affiliated with any schools, but we talk to a lot of people and we try to say, look at both sides and get involved because it's our future. And like the new CPC thing, secure the future, we can secure it.
Absolutely.
The third question is, Ontario was the only place in Canada that had more Liberal votes in 2019. Why do you believe that the CPC failed to grab the votes of Ontarians, and how can we change that next time around? And this comes from Jack.
Well, that was certainly a big part of our post-election analysis, and there are, again, so many different factors at play. There are a lot of signs of optimism in Ontario. We netted out positive seat gains. We were up 3. Unfortunately, we did lose a couple of incumbents, but overall we were net 3 up. And in some regions, we got more votes this time than we did last time. But for sure, that was disappointing for me that we weren't able to really captivate what I thought was going to be a lot of people looking for an alternative to Justin Trudeau. The incredible amount of disingenuous negative advertising that left-wing groups in Ontario threw at us, and this is where it was really frustrating. A lot of the media were trying to link our campaign with some of the challenges that the provincial government had been going on, and I'll leave it to others to say whether or not they were successful in doing that. But I would go out every day and say the Conservative Party is going to maintain funding for healthcare and education. There won't be cuts for important social services. Before the campaign even started, I gave a rock solid guarantee, and yet the left-wing groups were pushing these ads. I mean, some of them were just outrageous. A caricature of me and a caricature of the premier in a hospital saying that we were cutting hospital. None of it was true. None of it was based on fact. And the media, instead of calling out those groups for misleading Canadians and making up outright lies about what I was going to do as Prime Minister and what the provincial government was doing at the time, they constantly, forced me to answer for it. Well, you're being accused of this again and again and again. And what that does over time is, for the average voter, that's kind of the only message that can punch through at a time. So the left-wing groups in Ontario were very effective, and I have to take ownership for our party's ability to either respond. So not before I start to kind of look at external factors, I like to hold myself accountable and hold the team accountable. There's definitely things I could have done better. I wish we had have promoted our environmental plan a bit more. We had a very strong plan, a great message about reducing global emissions, not chasing away jobs and investment to other countries like China, like Trudeau has done with his carbon tax, making it less attractive to produce things here in Canada. Pushes that investment, pushes those jobs away to other countries like China, where they have terrible emissions. They don't have the clean energy that we have here. They don't have, they burn a lot of coal in China to produce aluminum. We have clean hydro to produce it here. So my whole plan was about helping to lower global emissions by doing what we can do here in Canada at a much more environmentally friendly way. A lot of great things in the environmental plan, and in retrospect, I probably could have promoted that a bit more in advance of the campaign. And so, there's some factors there, but, it's all about looking forward now. Best thing I can do to help Erin O'Toole win those seats in Ontario that we weren't able to last time is to just tell him what I experienced, and then give him as much information as he can, and then he can make his own decision. His campaign will look, use the past to inform the future. The next election is going to be fought on different issue sets and the totally different dynamic with COVID and the recovery that will the recovery that Canadians will want to have a strong hand at the wheel. And that's where we're all going to get behind Erin and promote him. And because I believe that his plan to secure that recovery will resonate with voters in Ontario as it will across the country.
Yes, I mean, in Ontario, we have a very unique political situation. We're very close to the US. People pay attention to the US, and there's certain politicians there that are similar in policy to Canada, but are very different than us. So they like to associate some American politicians with Canadians, even though they're very different. We're very different. And same with Ontario. In Ontario, 2019 and early 2020 was a time where teacher strikes were happening, and there was a lot of other groups that favor left-wing parties more that were spreading the false narratives of pretty much everything. And Justin Trudeau was literally just attacking Doug Ford the whole time. He's attacking you through Doug Ford. And at the debate, your line about the Liberal Party of Ontario is looking for a new leader. Since you like talking about Doug Ford so much, you should run for that. I think that was brilliant. And honestly, I think it was a hard time for the CPC. But again, like you said, we gained a couple seats. We kept some of our seats, and we can only look forward from there.
Yeah, exactly. And you're so right that the media does this all the time. They love to import American issues into Canada. They love to look down at the U.S. and import whatever the divisions between conservatives and liberals are in the U.S. and kind of make Canadian conservatives answer for what's going on there. And nothing drives me more crazy than when our state broadcaster does it. When the CBC, who gets so much money from Canadian taxpayers, and they use that money to cover left-wing American politicians and take those issues here. It was unbelievable. I think it was the day before my leadership was over, the day before the leadership vote, a CBC reporter was trying to make the case that the Conservative Party had a problem with attracting minorities, and she was using some of the divisions that were going on in the U.S. and pointing to the fact that Kamala Harris was getting more attention than Leslyn Lewis was. Because I said, look, our party, we believe in the fundamental freedom and individual liberty of everybody. We believe all human beings are equal. We don't, our message of freedom and individual liberty is appealing to everyone. We don't put people in silos, and we have, and that resonates with so many Canadians. We have so many people who attend my events, who join our party from all different walks of life, and it's the Liberal Party that actually, you heard Judy Sgro. Remember Judy Sgro, Liberal MP, saying that that her answer to Justin Trudeau's blackface scandal was that Black people actually appreciated it because he was trying to act like them. Like, it was just bonkers, and
blew my mind when I heard that. I'm like, what are you trying to? You're just trying to make racism okay?
Yeah, racist acts are okay if it's Justin Trudeau, So that's the part that is frustrating. But anyway, but I pointed out, I said, we have this great candidate running for leader, Leslyn Lewis, who's a Black Canadian. She's a lawyer. She's phenomenal, and she's getting a lot of attention. And the reporter said, yeah, but she's not getting a lot of media attention. There's not as much media attention about her as there is, say, about a Kamala Harris in the U.S. And isn't that proof that you do have a problem with racism in your party? And I was just, sorry, I should be asking you that question.
Exactly. I mean,
you get the mandate and the tax dollars to tell Canadian stories, to highlight Canadian issues. We have a candidate who's running for the leadership of our party, virtually attracting big crowds, a lot of attention. She did very, very well in most ridings. In all regions, she placed very, very strongly. And you're not telling that story. You're spending Canadian tax dollars to promote left-wing American politicians. So you know, that's a great question for Conservatives to ask the CBC, why they're using Canadian tax dollars and not using it to shine the same spotlight on Conservative politicians, trailblazers in our party here, as they do in other countries. So that is something that we are up against as a movement, and that's why I think it's so incredible that people like yourself and young people are doing this kind of thing, getting together, building these networks to help call out some of the hypocrisies that exist in Canadian politics here.
Well, myself, I was a Leslin supporter this past election and leadership election. I went to one of her smaller. Obviously, the leaders couldn't really travel the country as
Yeah.
much, but she had a smaller little event across the country. She did some ballot drop-offs, and I went to one of the events here in Ottawa, and she had a great from whatever crowd you could attract during COVID. She had a great crowd of people there to support her online. She had a great team of people that were supporting her, and she won in a lot of provinces. She won the West, basically. Quebec, she didn't do as well, but as for everything else, she did very well. She won the popular vote, I believe. She came very close in the election, and she's running in Haldimand, Norfolk now. And it's people like that, and people like so many people that are running for a party that we need to look to and see and tell the left, hey, we're not the party you think we are. We have a lot of people that come here. We don't play identity politics like the Liberals do. We actually have people running for us because they want to make a change, unlike the left's identity politics.
Yeah.
And that kind of is a great transition into our next question of how do you think we can build a united CPC government and a united Canada regardless of one's political stripe? And this comes from Darian.
Well, I do believe it's conservative principles of smaller government, more freedom, more economic liberty. These are things that unite people all around the world. At my Halifax convention, the big topic of the day, you know, before we found out about Justin Trudeau's blackface scandal, which probably would have meant he would never be able to have spent so much time talking about diversity. You know, there's some the media were, again, you know, putting a lot of questions about the conservative approach to immigration, the conservative approach to multiculturalism, and our appreciation of diversity. And of course, conservatives are big promoters and believers in diversity because it links so closely with freedom. You know, your right to live the life that you want to live, to pass on your values to your children, to speak the language you would like to speak at home, to come to Canada and maintain the traditions that are important to you. That all links in so well with conservative principles. So we're kind of thinking about that, saying how best to approach that, how best to tell that conservative story in a way that shows Canadians of all walks of life, of all races, ethnicities, religions, that not only is there a home for you in our party, but that our principles are your principles, and that we have a lot in common. And that's when it kind of, you have one of those light bulb moments. You say, why is Canada so diverse? It's not that, you know, it's not like someone in, you know, someone who's come here from Germany or Ireland, someone who comes here from Southeast Asia or Africa or South America. Is it just coincidentally that they were all, you know, attracted to our winters, our natural beauty? Perhaps there could be some of that, but what motivates people from so many different religions, languages, ethnicities, races, from regions all across the world, what could appeal to all of those different kinds of people? And then it kind of, the light bulb was, well, it's our freedom. It's the fact that this is the country that for over 150 years, you could live the life you wanted to. You could practice the religion you wanted to, that you could make a living, that the government didn't run your life, that you could have an idea and the ability to work hard and make something of yourself and have an incredible quality of life, and that your children have better opportunities. That's why we're diverse. We're diverse because people see those principles in action in this country of free market economics and individual liberty. Now, over our time, we've had more and less freedom. We've had more interventionist governments and less interventionist governments. So ebbs and flows. But I think that's the answer. The thing that will appeal to an Atlantic Canadian, the thing that will appeal to a British Columbian, to an Albertan, an Ontarian, the thing that will appeal to a new Canadian, a fifth generation Western Canadian, someone who's come here from India or Pakistan, from Brazil or from Colombia, you name it, is conservative principles that are linked to individual liberty and economic freedom. Those are the things that break down class lines, religious lines, ethnic lines. And that is the common ground, I believe, that we can unite this country, keep this country united, because there's a big issue in Western Canada about how this Trudeau government has attacked Canadian unity by really just kicking Saskatchewan, Alberta while we're down. And that's why I'm so motivated to help Erin win the next election, because that's what's needed to keep this country united and to make sure Canada is still a place that people from all walks of life, from every corner of the globe, want to come to. We have to fight to preserve those freedoms that we have here, and they are under attack by this government.
Well, honestly, we need to, like you said, there's so many immigrants that have come to Canada and they have conservative values. Most of them, a lot of them do, whether they notice it or not. And we need someone strong like yourself and like Erin and like Leslyn and like Julius Tangson and Melissa Lansman and all these great people. Some of them we've interviewed, some of them we haven't, some of them we've followed. It is great that we have so many people from different walks of life coming to Canada and coming to join the Conservative Party to run in the next election and to win the next election for the Conservative Party and to represent their communities of Thornhill and York Centre and Haldimand, Norfolk and Regina, Qu'Appelle and Durham and so many places across Canada, to represent them in Ottawa, to truly have the best interests of their community there. And like you said, we need to really appeal to so many more people and show them that they can be conservative.
Absolutely.
So before we wrap up, we always like to have a casual, friendly chat, and we always like to speak of young conservatives and how they can get involved. And becoming a leader at the age of 38 is no easy task. Andrew, what advice would you give to young conservatives who want to get politically involved?
Mm-hmm. Well, this is an incredible calling in life, and there's lots of ways to get involved. There's as simple as helping out at election time, to being a member, an active member, and attending your riding association meetings and preparing for conventions and all that. There's a lot of different levels of engagement. So my advice to you is just show up and be engaged. Margaret Thatcher had a great line about how the socialists get up pretty early in the morning to do their thing, and so we have to get up even earlier. And there's a lot of groups that fund people, pay people to become left-wing activists and to fight the battle of ideas in so many different spheres, and they get paid to do it. We don't have as many of those, nowhere near as many on our side of the equation. So we have to show up, we have to get involved, we have to help out conservative leaning candidates at every level of government and conservative parties at every level of government, because if we don't, we won't win, and the other side will win and promote their big government ideology. That's first and foremost. Is don't just scroll by. If you ever see an article about, we just had an issue here in Regina, the city council voted to take down the John A. Macdonald statue, and a few people showed up at city council on our side to keep the statue up, but a lot of the groups put people out to condemn it. So I know there are a lot of people in my riding who don't want the statue down. All the polling shows that the people of Regina want it to stay up, but how many of them actually kind of show up and attend a rally of support, or to write letters to their, or emails to their city councilor? So being engaged on as many things as you possibly can with your life. And then in this business can be incredibly rewarding. This profession is incredibly rewarding. And my best advice to young people is, as you go through various elements of your involvement, if you do want to run, or if you do want to get a job on Parliament Hill or Queen's Park, or here at the Legends Saskatchewan, there's lots of different ways to get involved. But it's incredibly important that you be the type of person that accumulates friends and not enemies. And in politics, there are always things that you kind of have to pick a side, whether it's a nomination race or a leadership race or a battle at convention over a policy plank. And my best piece of advice I can give you is, if you find yourself on opposite sides as other people that don't let that make you become enemies. Respectfully disagree. Say, hey, you're working for candidate A, I'm working for candidate B. I think your guy is a great person, and if your candidate wins, I will support you. But let's not let these internal divisions create enemies, because when I look back at my life and the various things I've been successful at, it's always because at other stages in my political experience, I've tried not to lose friends over internal issues. I've tried not to become enemies with people that I was on opposite sides at a particular moment in time, and that'll serve you very, very well as you go on through life. So also, if you're a young person looking to give it a try yourself, to run yourself, don't let people use your age against you. You can make your own decision. If you think you're too young to do something, you haven't yet got the experience that's required, or you'd like to wait a little bit of time, that's your decision. Don't let someone else tell you, you're only 25, you shouldn't run for office. I was 25. I was 32 when I ran for speaker. I had a lot of people telling me you're too young for it. There are times where you might be too young for it. There are times when you might not have all the tools that you need or all the experience, but let that be a you decision, not a somebody else decision.
Well, as young people, we need to remember that we can get involved. The future is ours. The future is ours, and we can change that or keep it the same. We can get involved and do what we think is best to create a better future for ourselves. And there's a lot of young people that know they're conservatives, but in our schools, it's hard to be a conservative in our schools and openly discuss conservative values, because you have so many people attacking you, saying you're racist, you're sexist, you're all that, because of a certain politician at one point or another who had some sort of misunderstanding that sets a bad name, or even at that, because there's some preconceived notions about some people in different walks of life. And it's kind of sad, but we need to remember to just get involved. And we have a great number of younger people that proved everybody wrong, saying I am young, I can get involved. Like Sam Osterhoff in Ontario, he elected at the age of 18. Matthias Vanderlee, he's running in London Fanshawe, he's very young as well. He wants to run to be the next MP there. And there's so many things that can get you involved. I mean, if you're a young high school student, conservative, join the OHSCA. You don't only have to be from Ontario. Anybody in Canada that's a high school conservative, you can join us. We have a great number of things that we do and talk about, or there's so many more great organizations. Get involved with your EDA. They would love your help. Just get involved with your local MP if they're conservative. Just call, say hello, ask if there's anything, like by election time, if you need to, for volunteers, you can volunteer in an election and it'll come. And that's one thing to remember.
Yeah.
We really thank you today, Andrew, for joining us today. We had a great chat, and I wish you well in everything that you are doing, and in the next election and everything that we're going forward as conservatives. We have big things happening, and we will do a lot of great things. So do you have any final remarks or advice for our young conservatives, our members, and our supporters?
Yeah, just a message of thanks. Thanks for giving me this opportunity today, and thank you for all of your involvement. I went to a school in Ontario in my high school years. I went to Immaculata High School in Ottawa, so I know what it's like to be young and interested in politics and conservative. And back when I was going through high school, it wasn't always easy to be all those three things. I can only imagine that it's gotten harder and more challenging in this day and age. I think it's incredibly important that you really look at what you're getting from the media, from Hollywood, from television shows, for even from your teachers. One of the things that my dad did for me that really I think helped me be a critical thinker was, if I got a book assigned to me, I would look up and see what the author was all about. My dad would often go through the biography and said, "Oh, do you realize that this author said this or did that or was part of this political movement?" Just be aware of that there's going to be those biases, and even the books that you're reading in history, and go beyond in history or English, I mean, and go beyond the reading list that you're going to get from school. You're probably not going to get assigned Henry Hazlitt's Economics in One Easy Lesson. You're probably not going to get assigned Frederick Bastiat or Milton Friedman, but those are great books for you to read. They're going to give you some really powerful arguments and putting conservative thoughts into easy to understand words, so that when you come out of high school and you go into university, when you get the other side from your professors and from your fellow students, you'll be well armed and you'll be able to defend the things that you believe in. So take a critical thinking approach to everything you're presented in life, and go beyond just the reading that you've been assigned from your teachers. Really, take it upon yourself to educate yourself on many of these things. And just again, thanks for our future as a party, as a movement, as a country is in your hands. It's going to take people like you to make the decision, to get involved, stay involved, and never stop fighting for the things that you know to be true.
So thank you, Andrew. That is some great advice. The more that you read, the more that you can expand yourself to learn and read all sides, read the left wing side of what they think and the right wing, and just learn and surround yourself with great authors and great writers and great information out there. There's lots of great things on the internet and at our local libraries. Just really surround yourself with some, like you said, critical thinking, and really think of different things that you can believe in and learn about.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Andrew, for joining us today. So that is it. We really hope you enjoyed today's interview. We thank you for joining us today, Andrew, and we thank all of you, our supporters, subscribers, and followers, and we hope that you join us for more interviews coming soon. Make sure to follow our Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook accounts at Ontario HS Cons, our website at ontariohsconservatives.org. And make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell so you never miss a video. And we thank you for coming. We hope to see you all soon.